Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to tip my hat to my colleagues today. I think there's been a genuine quality in exchange of ideas here and philosophies. Mr. Speaker, as many of you know, before I came here, I was a classroom high school teacher. And today I've heard some things that have raised questions for which I'm going to need a little bit more guidance. Earlier, we heard from the gentleman from Upper St. Clair tell about how USC School District spends on average of under $5.50 per student, and yet they achieve presidential blue ribbon status. Well, Mr. Speaker, I obviously am not from Upper St. Clair. I'm from Armstrong School District, my home. We spend considerably more than that, about $9 per student, and yet we're not presidential blue ribbon. Now, Mr. Speaker, most of our thought, political, economic, however you wish to perceive it, is drawn from the same root source, the Greeks. Aristotle, Plato, Socrates. Linear logic. For this to happen, these things must happen. Now, if I would believe the points that have been presented today, every single one of our kids, from the shores of Erie to the great city, from the hills where I live to the northeastern corner of the state, all we have to do is shovel money at it. But, Mr. Speaker, that's really, in a pure classical sense, not logical, because as you just pointed out, USC spends less money per kid and achieves higher statuses. Now, here's the question. Mr. Speaker, this year the state is going to put more gross amount of money straight from our tax base into our schools than ever before in the 300 years there's been a Pennsylvania. Yeah, I'd like to do that, but I know the well's only so deep, Mr. Speaker, so maybe if nobody minds, we can take this away from education just for a second. 7.2 million added for diabetes, epilepsy, ALS support services, Tourette syndrome, biotechnology, poison control centers, and lupus. Now, if you don't recognize that, how about these? 20 million more to reduce the waiting list for intellectual disabilities. How about 17% more for autism intervention and services? We continue to drive out increased funding to our nursing and skilled care homes for our elderly. We increase funding going into our rape and domestic violence centers by 10%. We put all the money back into the conservation districts that was taken out last year. We fund our heritage parks. We put more money into DEP, environmental safeties. Mr. Speaker, where I live is kind of rural. We're outside of Pittsburgh. So we do depend on the state police, and when we add 300 troopers to the complement, that's huge. For us, that's gigantic. These guys are like the Texas Rangers where I live, Mr. Speaker. They are 40 miles in any direction on a moment's notice because there are so few of them. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to close by asking people to vote for 1437, and I want to make a statement, and this is not from Jeff Pyle, legislator. This is Jeff Pyle, a person who put 14 years in a classroom and loved his kids dearly. Perhaps I'm taking this the wrong way, but equating my ability to teach a lesson according to how much money I'm going to get paid is insulting. And frankly, I know there are a lot of teachers on this floor. I know the game plan. Go for as much as you can get. I was a member of PSEA. Not anymore. But are you serious, Mr. Speaker? We put $100 million back into public education. We get emails that say, good start. Are you kidding? I know we increased the amount, Leader. Thank you. But back to the original thought, Mr. Speaker. If you're going to tell me that the quality of a teacher depends on how much money you pay them, I'm calling you out on it. You couldn't be more wrong. Please vote for House Bill 1437. Thank you.